Hi, and welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Pastor Paul Steele from Bethlehem Church in Austin, Minnesota. The Bottom Line is our weekly summary of the previous Sunday's sermon. And on Sunday, we continued on with our sermon series called How to Hear from God. See, communication is the key to any relationship. And so if we're going to talk about having a relationship with God, we should expect not only to talk to Him, but for Him to also speak to us. When we pray, we are talking to God and we're giving to God our worries, our problems, our questions. And that means that we should also expect that God will communicate to us, that He will provide us with the wisdom that we need. And so in James chapter 1, starting with verse 5, James writes, "If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and He will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask Him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalties is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything that they do." James here promises that when we need wisdom, that we can ask God for it. And how do we receive wisdom? Through communication. So when we ask God for wisdom to help us through our worries and our problems and our questions, we are expecting that God is going to respond and that He is going to communicate to us His wisdom. And that's what James says. Expect that this will happen. And he also says that when you pray, make sure your loyalty, your faith is in God. Don't have a divided loyalty. Don't say, okay, I'm going to trust God, but I'm also going to try to figure this thing out. I'm going to follow Jesus while it makes sense, but if it doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to find another alternative. Because James says, when you act like that, when you have a divided loyalty between King Jesus and this world, you shouldn't expect God to answer you. So when we are loyal, when we are committed to representing King Jesus in this world, we should expect that God is going to give us the wisdom, that He's going to communicate that to us so that we can represent Him well. James taught that we need to expect that God will give us wisdom and that we need to live faithful lives. And when we do that, then we can be confident that God will direct us, guide us by His wisdom. So our big idea from Sunday is this: God speaks to us in response to our prayers. God speaks to us in response to our prayers. That when we speak to God, when we communicate to God, when we give Him questions, when we give Him concerns, God's going to respond to our prayers. Maybe not on our timetable, maybe not the way that we want Him to, but He will respond and give us the wisdom that we need. And our challenge this week is to ask God for wisdom. When we have a particular question, a particular concern, ask God. And then spend some time listening for His response, which will come either through the Bible, through talking with other Christians, or through some circumstances that God brings our way. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of Bethlehem. I want to remind you that you can join us every Sunday morning at 10:30 on Facebook or YouTube, or better yet, here in Austin, Minnesota, next to Ellis Middle School. And if you want to join us in the work that we're doing here in Austin, you can do two things. You can pray that we would have opportunities to show love to those around us, that we would represent Jesus well, and you can give. You can go to our website, BethlehemChurchAustin.com, go to the Give tab, and that will help us with the resources we need to do ministry here in Austin. And if you have a prayer request that you'd like me to be praying about, send me a note, leave a comment, send me a message, and I'd be glad to add you to my prayer list. Hey, thank you again for listening, being part of Bethlehem. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and God bless.